Thank you. Wow, good crowd today to talk some numbers. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Governor.
It's great to be here. Thank you to all the legislators that came today. I appreciate all the community leaders and press. I wanted to start by thanking members of the team. Corey Marshall Steele and Stephen Mars. Can we give them all a round of applause? Let's get right to it. We're going to talk about numbers today. Anytime we talk about numbers, we start with our priorities, our principles, and our vision for this state. There are three priorities that are guiding us today. At a time when we're hearing a lot about cutting government, slashing services, we're thinking how to strategically and intelligently invest in the services that Delawareans rely on most. And we're really focused on three priorities in particular. The first is investing in our classrooms, investing directly in Delaware's classrooms to improve literacy, support educators, and address students' mental health. Because stronger classrooms today will build a stronger Delaware tomorrow. Second, affordable housing. Delaware is dedicated to addressing our housing crisis head-on, prioritizing solutions that increase affordability, accessibility, and home ownership opportunities for families across our state. And third, it's healthcare for all. Every Delawarean, no matter where they live, no matter what their economic background, deserves access to affordable quality health care. You're going to see a budget that expands access, tackles costs, and promotes healthier communities throughout Delaware. We have two principles that have often guided us through this process. The first, as I said, is we believe in smart, efficient, and transparent government. We don't believe in a system where you go slash this and that across government. We believe in smart and strategic approach that delivers quality government to you. We all deserve a government that's transparent, that's accountable, and that's efficient. This budget makes government smarter. Brian's going to be talking about some of those investments a little later. More responsive and delivering tangible results for every taxpayer dollar. Now, as some of you have heard me talk about in the last year and a half, I think that we truly need to make sure the wealthy pay their fair share. Too many Delawareans come home with dirt under their fingernails, with their shirts stained from a hard day at work, and the burden of paying for government falls on them. We're going to be adjusting some tax brackets to make sure the wealthiest Delawareans truly pay their fair share. Under this budget, no Delawarean who has taxable income under $134,667 annually will pay a penny more in income taxes. You'll hear more about the details a little later. In this budget, you're going to see investments in our workforce. I think if we're going to provide this quality service we talk about, we need to make sure that that compensation for government employees is competitive, and also for our nonprofit partners. We're increasing pay for Delaware public educators in line with the Compensation Commission's report. We're providing a salary increase for every state employee. We're providing increased health care funding for all state employees, and we're also taking additional steps to make sure compensation of public employees continues to be competitive. I mentioned investing directly in the classroom. We're providing targeted literacy support for schools, emergency funding for school districts and charters with large number of students who are failing to meet their full literacy potential. I don't like to sugarcoat it. When you look at the reading and math scores in 4th and 8th grade in our schools, in our public schools, it's truly not acceptable. It takes not just investment at budget time, but tracking the dollars and making sure we're truly getting the results that Delawareans, that our families and our communities deserve. Our future truly depends on it. The state's going to distribute these funds based on demonstrated commitment to evidence-based literacy instruction and reading pilot programs using the same successful funding model employed during the high-dosage tutoring effort. I make this pledge to Delawareans as a former teacher who would listen to governors stand up and make pledges of more dollars and never see them in my classroom. We're going to track the dollars and make sure they get where they belong and we get the results that Delawareans deserve. In addition, we're providing unprecedented direct classroom support for teachers. The state's going to invest $3 million in what we're hoping will be a $6 million program partnered with $3 million of private investment to provide direct-to-classroom assistance to educators as they work to lift student literacy rates. This is an unusual program where teachers will have direct discretion over money going into their classroom. Educators will have the power to select from a diverse range of literacy materials. This is a model that's proven successful in other states across the country to ensure resources quickly reach the students that they're designed to assist. We're also going to provide national leadership in technology education and artificial intelligence. We all know artificial intelligence and technology provides or is a threat in many ways to our community. We need to be smart about it. We need to leverage these technologies to truly benefit our community. Delaware has long been on the cutting edge of career and technical education programs. To maintain this leadership, we're launching a statewide effort to expand training in artificial intelligence, building on the groundbreaking work from the Delaware Council on Educational Technology. One example is tremendous uses of artificial intelligence to help educators support students facing dyslexia and other learning challenges. We want to be first in the nation in delivering technological education to the students most in need. As I like to say, the rent is still too damn high. There are 50,000 Delawareans that are rent burdened, meaning they pay more than 30% of their income for housing. I know the legislators in the room are hearing about it all the time. Our plan is we're going to work to streamline vouchers and increase funding for the State Rental Assistance Program, SRAP. Delaware currently has a shortage of 19,400 affordable rental units for households between 0 and 50% of area median income. We'll need another 24,400 affordable housing units for households up to 100% of area median income across our state by 2030, just to keep up with population growth. We're going to incentivize the construction of housing that is affordable, specifically for families, seniors, veterans, and working Delawareans. I believe very strongly government cannot do this alone with our budget dollars. We need to make sure we set up a playing field that incentivizes home builders to build homes that are truly affordable. In addition, we need to take care of the most vulnerable among us. The 2024 point-in-time camp showed a 9% increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness. We're going to build a coordinated response system to reduce homelessness and end child homelessness in our state. Homeownership rates are declining with the rising cost of housing, and young Delawareans fear they will never own a home. We're extending funding for Delaware State Housing Authority programs that provide low-interest loans and down payment assistance to qualified buyers that help working families bridge the gap to home ownership. Suburban migration has also reshaped cities and in some ways harmed urban communities and hampered downtowns in many cities and towns across our state. We're going to be funding downtown development districts, which I think is a fantastic program across our state and many small towns to promote sustainable multi-use development. We're also going to encourage the development of vacant or underutilized land in existing neighborhoods and reimagining old spaces. The current permitting process for affordable housing development in Delaware is outdated and cumbersome. One of my first executive orders streamlined the permitting process and created a one-stop shop for affordable housing. We need to partner with you, the legislators, with people outside of government as well, with developers, those truly looking to make investments to make sure that we address what for so many is a crisis in affordability. I believe every Delawarean deserves a right to accessible, affordable health care, and we're taking steps in this budget to make sure health care is available for all Delawareans. With targeted Medicaid investments, we're going to ensure Delawareans have access to the critical care they need to lead healthier lives. We're going to plant the seeds to begin a medical school, do an analysis, a strategic step towards addressing healthcare worker shortages and improving healthcare outcomes. Delaware is one of 4 states in the country now without a medical school. And when you go to certain areas or a state where it takes 6 months, 9 months or more to get a doctor's appointment, that's just not acceptable. One of my first executive orders was establishing the Delaware Council on Farm and Food Policy. We're working to bring healthier food and better nutrition directly to our communities. We understand that healthcare doesn't start when someone enters the doctor's office. We need to take preventative steps for healthier communities, and that involves a $250,000 investment to launch a new round of the First State Food System Grant Program as part of the Delaware Grocery Initiative, led by the Division of Small Business and the Delaware Council on Farm and Food Policy. With GEAR, which I think is a great initiative started by my predecessor, Governor Carney, and new executive orders, we're streamlining processes and increasing transparency so government works effectively for all Delawareans. I signed an executive order on this, and you're going to see additional investments in this budget to make sure we deliver efficient, effective government. If it's done right, these investments through the budget are truly investments in which there's a return. We spend some money on technological systems, or we spend some money to review various areas of government service, and we create efficiencies that all Delawareans benefit from. By investing in shovel-ready infrastructure planning and using statewide space and land inventories, we're proactively managing our resources, ensuring government efficiency is not just a promise, but it's a measurable reality. As I mentioned, we need to make sure that the way in which we fund our government is fair across all communities of our state. A highest tax bracket that starts with taxable income at $60,000 simply is not fair. So we're proposing an adjustment to the tax bracket so that the wealthiest Delawareans will pay their fair share. If you look at our plan, we're actually reducing income tax, many by a small amount, for 92% of Delaware taxpayers. 92% of Delaware taxpayers will see a reduction in their income tax. That means every Delawarean with taxable income under $134,667 will see no increase to their personal income tax. We're proposing an update to Delaware's tax code to include 3 new tax brackets for those with taxable income of $125,000 or more, taxable income of $250,000 or more, and taxable income of $500,000 or more. Finally, I wanted to talk a little bit about federal uncertainty. One thing that maybe I didn't think about much when I was running for this office is that in my first 10 weeks, every single day has seen some sort of attack on one state program or a nonprofit program that I certainly did not anticipate when I was sworn in. For example, just yesterday, there were federal cuts to the CDC, to the Center for Disease Control, that could have a dramatic negative impact on the public health services we deliver to Delawareans. And some days I feel like maybe many of you do too. We're playing a game of whack-a-mole, trying to see what new cut, what new clawback is coming for the federal government, and making sure that we protect Delawareans, that we particularly protect the most vulnerable. My promise to you is we need to find a way to thrive no matter what that uncertainty is. I can't stand up here and say, we'll talk about the numbers in a minute, I can't stand up and say with a straight face that every dollar of federal funding that's taken away, we're going to be able to replenish. But we need to be smart about what our values are. We need to be smart about how we spend state dollars. And we need to make sure that we're protecting people and protecting programs that are truly helping Delawareans. 1 in every $3 spent by the state comes from federal spending. Every federal cut shifts the financial burden to the state. And of course, that includes not just federal cuts on state government, but federal cuts on nonprofits, on our universities, on our hospitals and healthcare systems. The continuing resolution just passed last week or the week before eliminated $21 billion in planned federal expenditures to states across the country. We're expecting additional funding reductions to critical programs nationwide, affecting Delawareans in the following areas: education, food assistance, coastal protection, renewable energy, public health, housing, and transportation. There are also proposed clawbacks of up to $4.5 trillion in federal funding to programs for nutrition as well as Medicaid. Listen, we have a great challenge in trying to budget in the midst of this uncertainty. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, it's challenging to build a predictable budget for the next year when you're not sure what's going to happen with these critical sources of funding. We've taken some steps in these budget that Brian's going to talk about to protect Delawareans so that in the case that the unexpected happens, we'll have some resources to make the values decisions that we need to make together to do whatever we can to protect our communities. So thank you very much. Without further ado, I want to call up the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, Brian Maxwell.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for all coming today. I'm going to get into numbers today. As the Governor mentioned, we're going to be investing in the classroom. And part of that initiative is adding $8 million for early literacy emergencies. And that is based on, as the Governor said, providing funding for evidence-based literacy instructions. In addition, we're investing $75.5 million into supporting public education professionals' compensation. This will increase the starting salary for teachers to $52,515. The plan with regards to the Public Education Compensation Commission is to get to $60,000 by fiscal year 2028. Our Secretary of Education, Cindy Martin, has been working collaboratively with the Public Education Funding Commission, and the Governor is very adamant about getting equitable funding formula for all Delaware schools. So we continue to track that and monitor that progress. We're also looking to invest $3 million directly in the classroom for literacy programs for teachers to implement and to be hopefully matching private contributions with that investment. And additionally, we're adding $3.8 million for investment in low-income and multilingual learner students, bringing the total resources to $66.8 million. We're continuing the support for Wilmington Learning Collaborative and Reading Consortium. Total investment is $20.2 million. We're adding an additional $8.4 million for mental health services for elementary, middle school, and high school students, bringing the total resources for mental health to $67.7 million. $500,000 to continue the current cell phone pilot program to get cell phones out of the classroom. I had the privilege to go down to speak to the school chiefs about a week and a half ago to talk to them about the current pilot that's going on, and I heard nothing but positive remarks as to how it's affecting disciplinary, improving disciplinary behavior in the schools and also changing the climate. Also, kids are talking face-to-face with one another, so I was very enthused to hear that feedback. $150,000, as the Governor mentioned, to adding artificial intelligence education to the classroom to use as a valuable tool. Affordable housing, what you see before you is a $12 million increase over the current year, and this is to create and improve affordable housing stock throughout the state of Delaware. We are increasing the state rental assistance program from the current amount of $4 million to $6 million. And that will increase the number of families being served by 160. So we'll be up to about 490 families that will be served by the SRAP program in fiscal year 2026. Healthcare for all Delawareans, we're adding $85.5 million for Medicaid, $61.3 million to support other post-employment benefits. $27.5 million represents the increase that was voted by the State Employee Benefits Committee last Friday. $1.5 million to continue the Smart Food Program to get local produce into our local communities. $250,000 for a medical school analysis, and $1.15 million for a increase in mental health professionals rates effective 1/1/2026. With regards to appropriated special fund authority, we are recommending an increase of $3.5 million for the important initiative of recruitment and retention of Department of Justice employees. This will require legislation, which the Department of Justice will be bringing forth, that will increase investor fees into the Investor Protection Fund. $1.7 million for Medicaid state share rate increase for mental health professionals serving the Medicaid population. $10 million for Medicaid skilled nursing facilities, which represents direct payment and also a rate increase for those facilities. And then a $5.8 million authority associated with continuity of operations for DENREC, which will be coming forward with regards to a fee package with regards to updating agency fees, which we'll talk about in a minute. As far as efficiency and transparency, we're making an investment of $1.95 million to more effectively implement an electronic health record system so we can efficiently process reimbursements. $500,000 for a government performance review that'll be conducted in each state agencies to increase the focus on delivery of services to the citizens of Delaware. $100,000 to create greater efficiencies within the business permitting process and shortening the duration of that process. $200,000 investing in a shovel-ready infrastructure planning. We're going to pilot and identify areas with planned state, local, and private infrastructure capacity that are equipped to accommodate growth and development to meet transportation, housing, and economic development priorities. As the governor mentioned, we're in a time of great uncertainty from the federal level, so we are proposing to maintain critical services. As former county exec and now governor, he came down to Dover probably annually to talk to the legislature about changing the state cost share for paramedic services, which are critical services for every Delawarean. We're proposing to change that current cost structure from 30% state, 70% county to 35% state, 65% county at a cost of $4.2 million. $1.6 million represents a 3% increase to grant and aid nonprofit organizations that provide critical services to our community. $21.9 million for the creation of a federal contingency fund to offset potential federal funding reductions. This is really a step one in a plan to address any potential services that we value, that we feel we must backfill. As the governor mentioned, to make this plan work, we have revenue proposals. The first one is a personal income tax increase. The fiscal impact for 2026 is $16.54 million. Fiscal year 2027 impact is $35.2 million. We're proposing a cigarette tax, which represents a 50-cent per pack increase. Fiscal impact for 2026 is $8 million. 2027 impact is $11.5 million. Other tobacco product tax increase of for fiscal impact of for 2026 is a $5 million increase, and 2027, $7.2 million. In addition, agencies, the Department of Natural Resource and Environmental Control will be submitting legislation to increase their fees for a total of $6.68 million. The Department of Transportation will be forwarding a revenue package to raise $107 million to improve safety, maintain a good state of repair, provide new multimodal connections, deliver routes identified in the DART Reimagined Plan, address frequently flooded roads, and modernize DMV mainframe system and tolling equipment. So the fiscal year 2026 budget reset, the operating budget of $6,581,100,000 represents a budget growth of 7.37%. The grant and aid set aside is $82.8 million. A bond and capital improvement act of $937.9 million. And that's broken down into transportation and state capital projects. State capital projects of $682.7 million, and transportation at $255.2 million. The one-time supplemental bill is being proposed at $59.9 million. I will just make a note to everybody. I know we do have a budget stabilization fund, and this plan that's presented before you maintains the current level at $469.2 million. It wouldn't be a budget presentation if I didn't actually look forward and look into the out years. And so what you see up on the screen, I know it's probably a little bit hard to read, but we do have a balanced budget based on March DFAC revenue. Obviously, if there were to be further declines in revenue in May and June, we would have to amend our financial plan. But based on DFAC numbers, and I'll focus everybody's attention to the bottom lines here. So in the current year, well, the current year that we're talking about, fiscal year 2026, the revenue is projected to grow at 1.9%, okay? I just presented a operating budget that grows at 7.4%, but based on carryover funds and the revenue, there's enough to support the plan that we have. We're balanced. But if we were to take a look out into the out years of fiscal year 27 and 28, revenues are growing at 1.2 and 2.3% respectively. And I am modeling, I put up a 5% budget growth, which may be modest because I go back to fiscal year 2020 to fiscal year 2026, the average budget growth was 6.34%. And so I'm tapering down the budget growth, but what you will see in fiscal year 27, based on a 5% budget growth and current projections of DFAC, it would require us to actually take $380 million out of the budget reserve to balance a 5% budget growth. We have made reductions to the cash to the bond bill because people will say, well, you don't need as much cash to the bond bill. I could have that conversation with the chairman that I'm looking at him right now, and he would tell you, we need more money cash to the bond bill to get Delawareans working and to create economic development. But then if you go out to the next year, when you get to 2028, growing at 5%, you fully deplete the stabilization fund and you have a $480 million deficit. You cannot afford your appropriations in 2027 and 2028. So what I put forward today and the governor talked about is a plan. This is step one. Obviously, with the uncertainty that we're dealing with at the federal level, we don't know if that problem is going to get bigger or if it gets smaller. If I was standing before you, to be totally honest with you, I wouldn't want to use the federal uncertainty money at all because that assumes something's happened and we would be able to use that money towards a future problem, but we have to plan now. And so people may say, well, why didn't you use the budget stabilization? I can show you right now, I plan on using it if nothing changes right now, and it will be gone in 2 years. So thank you all for coming, and I just want to leave you with them. I I'll leave you with I just want to leave you with the Meyer administration's values, and they are integrity, efficiency, and collaboration. So that ends the presentation, but thank you all for coming.